I had the privilege of speaking with the wonderful Dr. Darrin Peppard. We were supposed to start off talking about leadership teams, leadership clarity, and then something fun, but it took an organic turn. And I love when my conversations are truly organic. We ended up talking the first half of the interview about educational consultancy or being an educator entrepreneur. And it was really Darrin who started that conversation. And I love how the conversation unfolded. It was a great conversation. The second half, which you'll hear on Tuesday, was actually about the leadership teams, leadership clarity, but we still pulled in a little bit more of the entrepreneurship into that. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation with Dr. Darrin Peppard. You are going to be blessed. I was blessed. It was such a great conversation, and I have a feeling you're going to enjoy it just as much as I did. So let's get started. Hi, friend. Are you ready to move into a leadership position? Do you have interests and ambitions that you want to pursue, but feel like you don't know how to take that next step? Maybe you want to start your own coaching or consulting agency. I'm Mel, and I help educators define their career path through correct mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for your career transition. I will show you how to level up your leadership skills, share your expertise in a new way, create impact on a larger scale, and put your leadership in motion. As an educator for over 20 years, I started to feel underused and like I had more to give. I knew when the time had come for me to leave the classroom and affect change on a larger level. Now, I'm ready to help you determine where your talents and skills mesh with your passions and interests. Put your leadership in motion and move into that next phase of your educational career journey. Let me help you define your career path by having the right mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for that next leadership position. So power up and put your leadership in motion. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort, and today I have with me Darrin Peppard. And he's going to be talking to us a little bit about the road to awesome. And then we're going to talk a little bit about leadership teams, leadership clarity, and we're just going to see where the day goes. Welcome to the show, Darrin.
Oh, thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. It's been a little while. We tried to meet a few weeks ago, and I had a little bit of an eye issue, and so we had to reschedule. And I was on your show not too long ago, and that was really fun.
Right.
So I'm glad you get to be on my show now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime as podcasters, we can do the home and home type of thing, right? You know, where you're on my show and then I'm on your show. It's always a lot of fun. It's an opportunity certainly to, kind of cross-pollinate the audiences and, just honestly to take that conversation maybe to, like the next level, because we've had enough conversations now that we've gotten to know each other. So yeah, I think this is going to be great today. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're here. Definitely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Talk about Road to Awesome. Tell us whatever you want to tell us, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's dangerous, to just throw the microphone over to a podcaster and just tell them to just start talking. So, but I guess this is what I would say about me. Dr. Darrin Peppard. I was in public education for 26 years, although I still consider myself, now that I've been in the leadership coaching space, that type of thing, I still consider myself a public educator. I'm actually an adjunct professor with Fort Hays State University in Kansas. So, technically I'm still an educator, and I feel like I'm a lifelong educator. I started as a middle school teacher, as a middle school science teacher. I taught high school science, was a basketball coach, became an assistant principal in my home state of Wyoming, and eventually became the principal of that school. And that really, Mel, is where I fell in love with the leadership coaching. My first year as the building principal was a nightmare. I was a mess. I had been the instructional leader in my school the previous 3 years in my assistant principal role. And when I was hired to be the principal, my superintendent said, Darrin, I want you to be the instructional leader. And Mel already was. And so I'm like, okay, so does that mean just keep doing everything I'm doing plus take on the principal job? And I fell into this trap that so many early career leaders fall into. I call it Superman syndrome. I think there's a lot of other phrases for it, but it's this belief that you have to be everything to everybody. You have to solve everybody's problems. You have to be the smartest person in the room, that kind of thing, right? Like carry the world on your shoulders. And that led to about a year and a half in, just like a big crash. And I was fortunate. Our new superintendent that came in believed in leadership coaches, and he hired a leadership coach for me. And that was like this big turning point for me, because all of a sudden, I had somebody who could provide that third point perspective and could, kind of shake me a little bit and say, hey, do you want to be a firefighter or do you want to be a leader? What role do you really want to take on here? And, I had 2 or 3 of those moments in my career where 2 roads diverged, and I could stay on the path I was on, or I could choose to go another way. And that's really where the road to awesome comes from, are those moments in time where I had an opportunity to make a decision to continue in the way I was or make some changes, look to improve and grow as an individual. And, certainly that leadership coaching moment was one of them. From there, I went on to be a superintendent for 4 years. And now for the last 3, I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm a leadership coach. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I run a small publishing company. I am the true definition of an educator entrepreneur. I really am. And I love it. I really do. I wake up refreshed and ready to go every morning. My feet hit the floor and I'm like, let's go. What can we do today? Who can I help today? So like the whole world is my classroom now. So there you go. That's my story.
That's you in a nutshell. Awesome. Yeah. And I was going to follow up. Here in Missouri, we are fortunate. We have what's called MLDS, the Missouri Leadership Development System, and it is wonderful. So I was able to take part in that my first 2 years of being a principal, and that was so valuable to me as a first-time principal. I got to have coaching from people who had been in the business for so long, and they gave me so much great information and feedback and training. But then I was also able to collaborate with other new principals in the area, in my local area, and we got to grow with each other. And now we're still really good friends, and we still connect with each other and bounce ideas off each other. And so it's a great opportunity for any state to have something like that, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime that you're new in anything that you do, you need support. And I mean, we can all benefit from a coach. I mean, honestly, Belle, for the last 3 years, I mean, I have a business coach that I work with. I have a speaking coach that I work with. You need that support that I said earlier, that third point perspective, right? Somebody who can kind of stand on the balcony and say, have you thought about this? Or, why are you choosing to do this? Or did you accomplish what you wanted to here? And let's talk through maybe why you did or why you didn't. I just think that coaching piece is so huge. And, I like that you mentioned that piece with Missouri. A friend of mine, a fellow 2016 Principal of the Year, Ted Huff, actually works with MLDS. And he and I have had a number of conversations about what Missouri does. And I think that's a model that can be replicated in a lot of different ways. Been having a lot of conversation with AMLE, the Association for Middle Level Educators, about that type of work. I work with the state of New York. I'm part of a team with New York State Department of Education to provide school support partners is the terminology they use there. So I work with educators in New York to do that work. It's just critical, right? And what you got at right there, what you hit so well, is to be able to bounce ideas off of others, to have a network of people that you can grow with, and to have this support. I know I had a bunch of them that, as I was maturing as a leader, same thing as a superintendent, where you're just calling each other and saying, all right, you won't believe this one.
Yeah.
I need your help. Walk me through this, or whatever it might be. But yeah, the coaching piece is huge. And I know we can talk coaching forever. I think
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And I love that you said you're a true educator entrepreneur, because I actually wrote a book called Educator to Entrepreneur, and it is based on my journey of starting my own educational consultancy and what I learned from it. And I just thought, you know what? This was something I had to learn on my own, and I can help others do it quicker than they can.
Yeah.
I can help them through the things I had to figure out. It took me a little
Right.
while, and then they can do it in a much quicker fashion.
Right.
So definitely, I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, one of my people from my co-principals at the time in MLDS or Leadership Academy, I don't know. I was in both at the same time, so I can't remember who was in what group, but one of those went on to be a superintendent, and he actually gave me the opportunity, or my very first opportunity, as an educational consultant within his district. And so it was great. You know, it's such a great connection. And I also have a business coach. So I'm telling you, mentorship is, and collaboration is the best way to grow. It's
huge.
So it is. Definitely.
It's huge. I know this is your show, not my show, but I think we should stay on the educator entrepreneurship piece for just a little bit longer, because
I'm always up to talk about
so many people want to do that. So many people, I'm sure you hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. Hey, tell me about this. I mean, just as we're recording this, about an hour and a half ago, had a conversation with someone who just wanted to talk to me about how I develop content and what my content marketing strategy is, right? And that's not where I wanted to go with this. I wanted to go back to what you just said about somebody from within your cohort who then later hired you to come in as a consultant. And I think so often I hear the question of, how do you find clients? You know, how do people know that you're out there doing the work? And a big piece of it, not that you're trying to like hit your friends up for work, but rather what I did, a strategy that I've employed, is just leaning into those relationships that I have, not necessarily expecting them to hire me, but just, hey, you know, like in this case, you know, your friend, probably it started with can I share with you what I'm working on? And then they probably ask you some questions, and before you know it, they're like, you know what, Mel, I would actually like to bring you in to do blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yes.
That's how it started for me, was somebody reaching out and saying, you know, hey, you know, used to work with you. We were on a state team together. You know, I got a principal who needs some help. Would you come and coach him? Yes, I would. And then the rest is history. So,
yeah. And that's exactly how mine started. Yeah. I had him on my podcast, and I knew that if I talked to him about my idea, he would give me some really good feedback, and he might be one that I could talk gently into letting me be part of his district. And that's exactly how it was. And I told him exactly what I wanted to do. And he gave me some great feedback because I was thinking one direction, and he's like, no, that's not what I need for my district, but I could use you this way. And so you have to be really open-minded about what you do. And I was able to leverage what I had been doing for the past 2 years in the district that I was in at that time. And so it was great.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's stay on it for just another minute. So
go for it.
Let's talk about, okay, so you maybe get that first opportunity, but how do you make your entrepreneurship grow, your educational consultancy? And that can look different because what you do as an educational consultant or what you do as an educator turned entrepreneur may look different. So there may be something different that you do. You could be a copywriter. You could do, I mean, there's so many things, but if you want to grow that consultancy, let's talk a little bit about what that could look like.
Right. Well, for me, it really comes back to content marketing. For me, it's all about sharing knowledge, and not necessarily just like my knowledge or like something that I did when I was a principal or when I was a superintendent. But as I continue to work with, you know, so many other leadership individuals and teams around the country right now, actually internationally now, I'm working with a team in Canada now, but it's what we're learning collectively then others can benefit from. So, you know, for me, it started with my blog. I've actually been blogging since probably, I don't know, 2011 or 2012. And I was pretty inconsistent. That's when I was a principal. When I was a superintendent, I had a separate blog, just, you know, kind of about our district. But in early 2022, knowing that I wanted to further my footprint, if you will, you know, increase the brand awareness of what Road to Awesome really is, who Darrin Peppard really is and what he's all about and what is his specific area of expertise, I leaned heavier and heavier into showing up with that blog every single week. And early on, and this is a great lesson for any edupreneur, early on, it probably wasn't that good, but you keep doing it and you keep showing up. And I for the last 2.5, 3 years, I've shown up every single week with a blog post. And the last probably year and a half, it has been very specific for early career leaders. That's who I lean into. I believe very, very strongly. It's one of my favorite quotes. A gentleman named Rory Vaden said once, "You are uniquely positioned to help the person you once were." I was a struggling first year principal. I mean, struggling, breathing through a snorkel, head far underwater principal. That's who I lean into. That's my primary. These are the people that I am writing that blog for. And because I have these opportunities to work with so many other schools now, every week there's a new lesson. Every week there's something that, man, this is so powerful. And I learned from it. Everybody should learn from this. And so I had that opportunity to share out. I think that's just one piece. But again, for me, it's all the different content. It's our podcast goes out every single Sunday and every single middle Wednesday of the month. There's a special episode. So we're dropping 5 episodes of Leaning into Leadership every month. I do a pep talk every week. We do a newsletter every week. And the more of that content I can share, the more I can support others, the more you tend to find them then leaning back to you and reaching out and saying, what you wrote in that one blog post, or man, that podcast episode that you had, man, you and Dr. Mel Vandevort, man, you had this conversation and you got me thinking this. And would you come and work with my leadership team? Would you come and coach this assistant principal that is struggling? Would you come and work with whatever the case may be? Right. To me, that's how it has worked for me. It doesn't mean that's how it works for everybody. My business coach has pushed me really hard on content marketing. And at first I'm like, why would I give away all the good stuff? Well, we're in the business of solving problems. That's why you give it away. Yes. Because there's so much more you can give. And that's why they then eventually say, hey, come work with my district, for these couple of days or for this entire school year or whatever. Right. Yeah. Man, you pulled a string. Exactly. I just started rolling on that, man. I just couldn't stop.
And that's exactly what my business coach told me too, because I'd had another coach say, no, you give them the why and the what, but you don't give them the how. And my other business coach was like, no, you give them everything, because then you build that collaboration piece and they really lean into you for information that's valuable and that they can actually put into practice.
Yeah.
Because
you build trust.
Right. Exactly. And she's also my book coach. So she started as my business coach and became my book coach. And then, I'm trying to figure out, I want to write a book. And she's like, so what you do is you create a framework and you write the book based on that framework. And your framework is your coaching then. And I'm like, mic drop, because I had never looked at it that way. And she's like, your book is not what you're not trying to sell a book. Your book is what you're using as a companion to your coaching and your business. And I'm like, holy cow, that is mind blowing. So then I'm like, I don't care if I sell any copies. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, see, the thing about a book, I mean, you can make money selling a book, but people aren't running to Amazon to buy my book or your book.
Right.
I mean, we may get some sales every month, but that's not what's driving the book. Right. For me, it's when I'm at a speaking event and people hear me speak and they're like, wow, I want to buy a copy of your book. Or they see my content. Oh, hey, I want to buy a copy of your book. Again, that's still just about, let's get to the next step. I mean, your book, I've heard this said to me many, many, many times, and I won't take credit for saying it, but I'll echo it. A book is the best business card you can ever give out. And maybe it costs you, $3 or $4 or $10, depending on, what your publisher charges you for your book. But I give away tons of them. I mean, I really do.
Exactly.
And I mean, every event that I'm at, books are going to be there. I'm actually, as soon as we finish hitting record, I'm jumping in the car and heading to an event, and I got a box of 50 books sitting right over there, ready to go with me. And I won't come home with any of them.
Yes.
So
and that's what she said. She's like, you make the print small, you make it affordable, and you hand them out for free. She's like, you're not trying to sell a book. And so, it's totally flipped the way I think about that, being an author. I mean, it's still, you feel really good because you've accomplished something and you've written a book and you have that on your resume and that kind of stuff. But like you said, who cares? You just give it away because that's what it's all about. It's about sharing that content, that knowledge, helping someone else grow, helping someone else be successful, and then using your story in that way as well.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Well, and that's part of why too. I mean, another branch of Road Awesome. I mean, we have a small publishing company, Road Awesome Publishing, and we publish books by educators for educators all the time. Yes, we'll make some money on the book, but the most important thing is for every one of those authors to, if they want to be a speaker, if they want to be a coach, if they want to be a consultant, to lean into that book for that reason. That's part of the power of it. And that's, to me, that's really what it's all about. And once you're on the other side of it and you have your own book, then you're like, oh, okay, now I really see how this works. And it's my job, as the author to sell this book. It's not my publisher's job. It's my job to get that book in front of as many people as possible to ultimately lead them back to hire me as a speaker, hire me as a coach, hire me as a consultant.
Exactly. Wonderful. This is where I'm going to stop for today. I want you to join me back here on Tuesday for the second half of our conversation where we talk about leadership teams and leadership clarity.